recently I have made one of those free websites. On it I put a few photos that I've taken over the years. I'll see if I can put a link to it in the description box. But taking a look at some of the photos I've taken, I decided why not do a video taking a look at a couple of photos I really like and discuss, of course, what they are and a little about them. This first photo that I've taken to look at is from my very first trip to New York City. As you can see near the lower right hand corner, the date taken is the 9th of September 2013, so almost 4 years ago now. What I like about it, it is a very busy scene. In the foreground, near the bottom of the photo really, you can see a couple of people milling around, two ladies crossing the road. You can see a gentleman on a bicycle. Also near the gentleman on the bicycle, near it's about 2/3 to the left, you can also see a couple of traditional New York City food stalls. And certainly my eyes always tend to travel to pretty much the centre of the photo, where you see a lot more people crossing the roads and you can see a lot of vehicles crossing the street, moving about. There is slight reflection near the advertising hoarding near the fire escape, about 2/3 to the left, about midway of the photo, just above it, which, as this was taken through the glass. But although none of these photos have real deep meaning to them, to me this kind of represents the holiday slightly, because you always hear about so much, and there is, having been there now twice, loads of things, lots of events, lots of places to see. You always hear how busy New York City is, and this kind of represents our first trip there. You see all the hustle and bustle, although this was probably around about middle of the tour, at least part of the way through the tour, and we were already there, of course, but it's kind of almost representative of us approaching the hustle and bustle of New York City. The second photo that I've taken is also slightly about hustle and bustle. It's taken right here in Dundee. It's on Victoria Road, and again, looking at the left hand side of the photo, you see a bus stop. If you were to continue along there, along that pavement, you can see along the railings to where the gentleman is leaning against the railings, you would get to the rear entrance exit of the Wellgate Shopping Centre. This is a good picture I like. Again, it's just people going about their business, this time in Dundee, and waiting at quite a few people that you can see waiting at the 3 bus stops that you can see there. These serve multiple routes, so people waiting on their different route numbers, buses, so they can go into whatever area of the city that they want to go to. I've been to those bus stops many times over my life. I just like it. I think it's a good Dundee scene of people finishing their shopping or doing whatever it is they have to do in the city centre and making their way again home or wherever it is. This photo was taken, I believe, February last year, so kind of late winter, early spring. You can see the clouds on the right hand side, kind of clearing actually. If you look at the right hand side of the tall building there, you can, on all the buildings really, you can see kind of the cloud clearing a little bit. But I think this is a good, just a great Dundee scene. Another photo that I've chosen, I think this is actually a good one as well. This photo was taken at Slessor Gardens, the public area for Dundee, the relatively new area, opened just over a year ago. This was taken on the 6th of July 2016, as obviously you can see from this photo, the Queen, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, and the Duke of Edinburgh, who is not pictured, opened that public area. What makes this good photo? Although I've said before I'm not a royalist, I don't even consider myself British, certainly Scottish, and that's nothing to get into right now, but what makes this good photo is obviously what direction the Queen is looking at. She is pretty much looking right down the lens of the camera, which I think makes this photo. You can see her security guard next to her. In the background you can see the gentleman with the chain, Mr. Bob Duncan, who was the Lord Provost of Dundee at the time. You can see also a photographer, a couple of cameramen right at the back, and also you can see the gentleman dressed up in the jacket and white shirt and bow tie, slightly behind the Queen, to the left as you're looking at the picture. He was the Lord Provost's assistant. But I think this, again, obviously what makes this a good photo is the Queen. It looks like the Queen, which I think she pretty much was, looking right down the lens of the camera. She was actually very alert to the fact of there were people lined up right along. So I was kind of one of the early first, kind of from the all across from right to left, as kind of as we were viewing the photo, and she was very aware of the fact of slowing down a little bit, and allowing people to see her and kind of wave at them. And I don't know whether it was deliberate or not, her pretty much looking at the camera. I felt on that day it was. She was kind of deliberately looking across, obviously because she could see myself with the camera. But this is actually a really good shot, and it's slightly historic, as we have seen the Duke of Edinburgh retire now from the royal duties, which may make it, although I did not get a great shot of them both together because they were kept separate by the security gentleman, this could maybe be a slightly historic photo, one of the photos of their last time in the city together. The fourth photo that I'm taking a look at doesn't really need a huge amount of explanation. It is, of course, Brooklyn Bridge, again in New York City. This was taken on my second trip last September, actually about a year ago. I don't think it was a year ago, I think it was 2 days ago. It was a year since this photo was taken. I really like it. We were lucky with the weather, although I can see now, when I go home, I can see a slight speck of dust near the upper left hand corner. I think this is a really good photo. It's very clear. Again, this was taken on one of the open top buses as we went across the opposite bridge. I think the Manhattan Bridge, I think they call it, or certainly the opposite bridge to this. It's a really good view. I originally really wanted to get a view of the Brooklyn Bridge. I knew we were going to do the bus tours again because we wanted to see the city again that way, and also one of us that were there hadn't been there before, so it's a great way of seeing the city. I would certainly recommend some of those bus tours. A great way to go around and perhaps slightly familiarise yourself with the city, but certainly to see a lot of it, especially around Manhattan, which is where we were based. I originally wanted to have this kind of a clear shot of the Brooklyn Bridge and just clear water underneath it, but I actually really like this photo. You can see the white tourist cruise liner. Really, it just came from out underneath the bridge, and you can see the wakes of a couple of ships actually there, and also I believe one of them is kind of a natural kind of natural rhythm or flow of the Hudson River. I think it's a really good photo. As you can see, it's pretty much a cloudless sky. It's very clear, very bright. And none of these photos I am claiming to be absolute pin drop sharp or the absolute highest quality, but I really like this photo. One of the favorite. I think this is probably the first photo is I think the favorite of the photos I took the first time in New York. I think this is certainly my favorite photo from last year's trip to New York. I have it all actually as my desktop background. The fifth photo is, I wouldn't pick it as really one of my all-time favourite photos, but this is a more recent photo taken on the 13th of August. It was taken at the Dundee Transport Museum Open Day in Baxter Park. They had obviously lots of different cars there. This is a photo taken from the birds display that they had, the falconry display that they had. I didn't catch all of it because a young family there, we were looking after them and taking them on rides. So I only caught the last couple of birds, this owl, and there was also a falcon as well. And it was slightly difficult to try and get good photos of them because they were flying at such amazing speed, obviously being trained that way. It was a demonstration of how those birds would attack or capture their prey, which is why the owl is kind of coming in at an angle with its claws. The gentleman there that you could see, I think he was teasing the owl at that point, trying to draw its attention. I just think this is a really good photo because it shows the wingspan of the owl spread out. This was taken at high shutter speed, I think 1,000th of a second. I had to put it up that high to try and capture a photo of them. As I said, they were flying so fast. It's a bit unfortunate I missed the display of the first couple of birds, but I really like it. You can really see the giant wingspan of this owl spread right out as it comes in, kind of continues its flight. I think it flew off again and flew around again before the gentleman allowed to capture the piece of meat, the rope that he actually was kind of playing around with it as prey. So I think it's a really good photo. Just shows the bird with its wings spread right out, and showing. You can see the great display, the display of its feathers right there. I think it's a really good photo.